This story is brought to us by apnews.com. It's breaking news that a Florida man who breached the U.S. Senate chamber carrying a Trump campaign flag was sentenced today to 8 months behind bars, the first punishment handed down for a felony charge in the January 6th Capitol riot, and one that could help determine the severity of other sentences in hundreds of pending cases. In pronouncing the sentence on Paul Allard Hodgkins, U.S. District Judge Randolph Moss said the 38-year-old had played a role, if not as significant as others, in one of the worst episodes in American history.
And we have breaking news. In the first felony sentencing from the January 6th attack on the Capitol, Paul Allard Hodgkins of Florida just sentenced to 8 months in prison. Hodgkins was seen inside the Senate chamber with a Trump flag, a rope, and goggles.
This is the first, as you say, felony charge. There have been two other guilty pleas. They were misdemeanors. So this was, the prosecution said, use this to lay down a marker that would say you can't attack the Capitol, you can't disrupt democracy, there are going to be consequences. But I think realistically, Andrea, while this sentence is probably on the lower range of what will be the ultimate list of sentences from all these hundreds of cases involving felonies, there are many more serious sentences to come for those people who did destroy property or who did engage, among the worst charges, engage in violence.
Judge Moss was quoted as saying, "That was not by any stretch of the imagination a protest. It was an assault on democracy. It left a stain that will remain on us, on the country, for years to come." Moss acknowledged Hodgkins' sentence could set a benchmark for future cases, and deciding an appropriate punishment was made more challenging because the case is unique and the court couldn't look to previous sentencings as a guideline. More than 500 people have been charged so far for their participation in the January 6th attack, and many, like Hodgkins, were accused of serious crimes but were not indicted, as some others were, for roles in larger conspiracies. They will have to decide whether to plead guilty or go to trial. Moss interrupted Hodgkins' attorney Patrick LeDuce to ask if granting the defense request to spare Hodgkins from prison could encourage others disgruntled by the results of a future election to besiege the Capitol.
Pete, this rioter did not assault anyone or destroy property. How do you judge his sentencing?
Well, the prosecution had asked for 18 months in prison. That was basically the sentencing guidelines here. His own lawyer said no prison time, maybe home detention. And Randolph Moss, the federal judge, sentenced him, as you said, to 8 months in prison plus 2 years of supervised release. The judge said, addressing Hodgkins in court, although you were only one member of a larger mob, you actively participated in a larger event that threatened the Capitol and democracy itself. The judge said the damage that was caused that way was beyond a several-hour delay of the vote count. It's a damage that will persist in this country for several decades. Now, Hodgkins himself did address the court today, Andrea. He said that he was truly remorseful and regretful because he feared the damage that the incident has caused could hurt the country. But he said, "I realize my involvement still did contribute to the greater problem that took place." So he did want to take some responsibility.
Hodgkins apologized to the court and said he felt ashamed. Speaking calmly from a prepared text, he described being caught up in the euphoria as he walked down Washington's most famous avenue, then followed a crowd of hundreds into the Capitol. Hodgkins told the judge, "If I had any idea that the protest would escalate the way it did, I would never have ventured further than the sidewalk of Pennsylvania Avenue. This was a foolish decision on my part." Judge Moss interrupted Hodgkins again, noting that some of the Trump supporters seemed to be out to track down lawmakers, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. 5 people died, including a police officer and a rioter shot by police. 2 other police officers who faced January 6 rioters died by suicide days later. In requesting the 18-month prison sentence during the hearing in Washington, Assistant U.S. Attorney Mona Sedki likened the attack to domestic terrorism. LeDuce, Hodgkins' lawyer, said the government's description of the January 6 events was hyperbole. He said, "I think it's gaslighting the country." and adding that a protest that became a riot. The judge then told Attorney Deuce there were people who were storming through the halls of the Capitol saying, "Where's Nancy?" That is more than a simple riot.
And in terms of his own regrets or apologies, take us inside the courthouse. What happened today?
Well, he did address the court. He had submitted a court document earlier, an affidavit, a statement, but he did read a statement, looking down at it most of the time, addressing the judge, says he was sorry for what he did, that he was swept up in the moment, but he asked also the judge not to sentence him to prison. He said, you know, if you sentence me to any time in prison, I'm going to lose my job. I'm a mechanic. I'm in an apprenticeship. It'll set me back. So he was, in essence, begging the judge not to sentence him to any prison time, but the judge said some prison time is appropriate given the gravity of what was at stake on January 6th.
And there's more to it. It goes down. I'm going to put a link to the whole AP News story in the description box below. But this is one of the first sentences of all these charges, and this guy's looking at he's got 8 months in prison, plus the supervised probation afterwards, which he's probably going to have to pay for, because it's usually, a lot of cases of supervised probation, the person on probation has to pay the probation office to provide that person that will supervise him. So he's going to lose his job, which means his income. I hope mom's got a room for him, because when he gets out of prison in 8 months, he's going to have to go move in with mom till he can get another job, and get back on the thing. He's going to lose his apprenticeship, because he said he had an apprenticeship. He's going to lose that. This guy's pretty much done. So was it worth it to storm the Capitol? Many people will say yes, but if you ask this guy, I bet he would say no. He got caught up in the moment. Got to stay focused, guys. What do you all think? Let me know in the comment section below. Community Leo Watch, watching Leos and communities, to include those guys that went into the Capitol building on January 6th and are now getting sentenced.